Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 399 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our third book is called From Letters to Leaders, Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, artificial intelligence is single-handedly helping my business with press releases and case studies that it develops based on all of the data that I give it from my successful engagements all over the country. If you're not already using artificial intelligence to help your business or your individual person move forward, the time has come for you to understand how to use it effectively, or your competitor will. I guarantee it. Our next guest is going to tell you all about it. Our next guest is Ben Gold. Ben spent 20 years in technology, in which the last 5 were dedicated to an AI-driven enterprise solution analyzing conversations. He has authored the book. It's called How to Find Your Next Job with ChatGPT, a guide for everyone. And he conducts webinars and coaching sessions for job seekers. Ben believes that AI isn't just the future, it's right now. With job markets evolving, it is important for you as a current or future job seeker to translate the complexity of AI into actionable strategies. Ben can demystify AI. He turns this into a robust tool for your career growth. So whether you're an entry-level candidate, you're a college student, or even if you're a seasoned professional, his AI-driven strategies are tailored to your unique path. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you so much, Michael. This is a fantastic introduction.
No, well, thank you very much. I'm available if you want me to introduce you on college campuses across the country. You can just pack me in your suitcase and I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So, Ben, I wanted to talk to you first a little bit about video games because we share a common love of classic video games. Both of us as kids had quarters lined up on the edge of those video game machines. But here's the thing, you are the legendary arcade champion. You were inducted into the International Video Game Hall of Fame. You've held world records in Stargate, Millipede, and Q*bert during your video game career. You have tested abilities against the evil space guppies, dynamos, space hums, fire bombers, the Freds, big reds, and even the munchies too. So obviously you were never really able to make a living from playing these video games. So tell our audience, what lessons did you take from that early period of your life?
You know, it's so funny because I remember when I was playing games and I originally started competing locally, then I set a world record on Stargate, and I was actually able to meet some of the national players that are there, and actually was able to compete against them. And it was a fantastic experience. The thing was is that I thought that I was going to be a professional video game player. And when I told people there's going to be people that make millions of dollars playing video games, and they're going to be doing all of these things, and I had everyone laugh at me. And I tell everyone now, I was born 20 years too early. Okay, that was the early 80s, and of course, the video game skills did not translate to money, but we have great stories. And one day, I would like to either write a book or make a movie to tell the stories of being a 16-year-old gaming champion that traveled in a bus throughout the United States for competitions. And it was just some really great experiences that I bring back with me. And I think I learned from there that perhaps the one lesson I learned was I was very, very, in the competitions, I never talked. I learned that just don't let people know that you're a target. And that allowed me to win or without people being aware of who I was. So that was my strategy, and it's kept me long. I try to be very modest. I do not like to say I'm going to do this, because that usually it puts an extra pressure and an expectation. So that's what I took out of it.
Wow, that's a great lesson. And I know that movie would be so cool. You got guys like me that just absolutely loved all the games that you played. For me, Millipede and Cubert were really, really good. I like Dig Dug a lot. That was really fun. So those are some of the games that I used to play too. So I would be in it. I mean, that would be just a really cool movie to watch. You got to live my dream as a kid, but I agree with you. You were born 20 years too early. If you were just delayed by 20 years, maybe, just maybe, you could have made a living with video games.
And I tell that to my parents, but there's not much they could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, timing is everything, as they say. And what's
Yeah.
interesting also is that you eventually decided on American University, of course, in Washington, D.C., for your undergraduate experience. I'm wondering, why did you choose American?
Because I was looking for, it's an interesting thing. I started at University of Southern California for a year.
Right.
I was totally directionless. Went back to Dallas, talked to a career counselor. I'll never forget this. $70 for 1 hour. Told them all my interests of traveling, international relations, international. I did a lot of traveling. I love languages, and she goes, "You should transfer to American University, study international relations," and that's what I did. And that was a really good choice because I spent 10 years living in Europe. I learned to speak 5 languages. And eventually I spent time in Romania where I met my wife and I brought her back. And as I tell everyone, she's my import and we have 3 joint ventures.
That's fantastic. My daughter is actually looking at Georgetown for the same reasons, I think. A lot of opportunities there for international business and politics and culture. And so sounds like you guys share a love for all of those things. And we'll see. We'll see. She still has to make her decision. She's a senior in high school and she's got to figure out where she's going to go. But Washington, D.C. looks like a good landing spot.
I will, if you, we can take it offline because you got Georgetown, you got American, you got George, and you got George Washington.
Right.
They're all 3 great schools depending upon what they're looking for. So that's absolutely a great conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good conversation. All right, so let's talk a little bit about AI because you've spent the last 20 years of your life in technology. Now you're all about AI at bengoldai.com. Why is this your particular focus right now?
So I'll give you the quick backstory that in the beginning of this year, I was let go from my technology job. And I spent the first 3 months looking for a job and I was using ChatGPT every day. And it was fantastic for personalization, for writing cover letters, for preparing for interviews. However, I found that when you do 15 LinkedIn easy applies, then a recruiter comes, and then you go on someone's page, it became very difficult to keep track of all of my activity. So I came up with a startup idea, and I've been building an AI platform that was for basically putting it all in one place and would help job seekers. Now, that startup is right now, I'm talking with investors and we have a prototype built. But what I decided was pretty quickly was why don't I talk to the people that are the end users? And in talking to the end users, going to job seeker events, talking to students and unemployed people and people that are employed but are looking at switching jobs, I realized that I also would like to have my own consulting business. And I also I wrote my book because everyone kept saying to me, okay, I would do these webinars. And for somebody who's never used ChatGPT, my first recommendation is put this on pause, go look up ChatGPT and sign up. That's like my first thing. And it's shocking to me to see how many people have not set up an account. Now, I would go on these webinars, and what I like to do is say, okay, I want someone in the audience who has an upcoming interview. And they would send me their resume, they would send me the job description, and they would show me the social media profile. And I would go into ChatGPT and I would say, what are the top 5 questions? What's the compatibility? What are the 5 icebreaker questions based on their social media profile, your resume? How do we put that together so you can be very insightful and build out that rapport? And as I would do that, there would be gasps in the audience. I really felt like Morpheus handing Neo the red pill, and suddenly people are like, oh, like this realization of what they're up against. And the people that are doing this are the ones that are going to have a better chance, that are going to 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100 are going to get they're going to be the ones that are going to get that interview because they're personalizing, and AI is able to crunch data to be able to, first of all, do a task that took 45 minutes. For example, a configured cover letter can do it in 6 or 7 minutes. That it takes a few minutes to do it. You crunch the thing, and you take a minute or two to read it over and change a few things. You can't just leave it for that. But when you begin to think of this efficiency gains, not only is it important for a job seeker, but then you have to ask the next question. So you use AI to get a job, but you're going to need to understand generative AI to keep a job. Okay, because employers are asking this question, and I have a couple of use cases where I have a business partner of mine. She's in marketing. She told me about how there was this entrepreneur that she was helping to find the next CMO for their company. They had 4 finalists. She said in the interview that they asked, "Do you use ChatGPT?" 2 of them said no. One of them said it's just a fad, it's going to go away. So she basically said that those 2 people, the moment they said no, the eyes glazed over of the owner, and he was like, next. So this is really important for college when we're talking to college seniors, juniors, is even if ChatGPT is banned in your university and you can't use it and I've talked to some students that have told me that they're not allowed to access ChatGPT because teachers are a little bit concerned about cheating, which I totally get. Full disclosure, I am Dad GPT, and when my daughter has an assignment that I think is total busy work, then I will help her use AI to get it done a little bit faster. Okay, but the point is that, and I actually don't feel bad about that because I want her to understand how to use AI. Okay, so anyway, that is a really important thing to understand, that on one hand, there's certain teachers, administrators not sure how to handle this new technology, but as students, you have to learn it. If you're going to be a graphic designer, a marketing major, HR, doesn't matter what your major is, there are tools being created today. You're going to have to change your whole outlook on the skill set that you need, so that it's not that you're necessarily, if you're a graphic designer, you're going to need to learn to use DALL-E or Canva or Adobe and understand how these AI tools work so that you can generate this content faster and be much more competitive in the market.
Well, all right. So let's look at it from the college and university standpoint for a minute with AI. They are very concerned with plagiarism. They are also very concerned. I think they want to develop students' minds so that way they can think for themselves. And AI takes a lot of that work away from the student. So, what is your advice to universities? How should they, or should they embrace AI technology at all?
They have to embrace it. There is no way around it, because I totally get this. Now we can talk about AI. It's progressing so fast that there'll be a moment where I, as somebody who is not the best graphic designer, can type in a few words and get a 1-minute video generated that's exactly what I'm looking for. I can't do that yet, and then you say to yourself, well, gosh, then the artists out there that paint, that use these that have all these skills, but it's gonna be hard for them to get paid for it, because if I'm on a bootstrap budget and I get this free app that can do something that's 10% less than what you can do, so there's implications. So my point is that universities are going to have to embrace it because it's changing so fast, mind-boggling fast. They need to be able to at least have it taught, give their students access, and have them understand how this is going to impact their careers. And I do agree, though, that when it comes to creative writing, it's probably a good idea to either limit the use of AI or at least make people write that, because I think it's important to be able to write that first draft, because AI does need structure. It does, when I write blogs or when I post or when I wrote my book in 5 days. I had 6 months of experience, but when I was ready to write my book in 5 days, I was able to have a conversation back and forth about what I'm looking for, and it took many iterations. It wasn't like I said, write a book about AI. It was like I had the structure, but I got help in terms of coming up with the right content.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so if there are college students listening right now or recent college graduates, how do you suggest they evaluate their best career path? How can they use AI in order to figure that out?
Well, this is an exercise I've done. It can be a simple one. Take whatever, if you've taken any standardized tests. So there's a bunch of them out there about your personality.
Mhm,
All you got to do is take any kind of test you've done, or if you have a resume and the resume is reasonably up to date,
mhm.
update it with anything you've done or add additional passions. Just put it as a text. And there is, in my book, I have this prompt, but I'll give you an example of what you would say to ChatGPT. You would say, based upon the following information, in whatever it is, resume, star assessment, give me a compatibility analysis with the top 5 career choices I could take. Make this as a percentage and give me a 2-paragraph reasoning for each of the different career paths. And then literally it will spit out, it'll say, project management, 93%. The reason we think that is because of this skill, this, and this. So it gives you that ability to start somewhere and be able to find what are my next job opportunities, or what is, and it gives you, maybe the number one isn't the one, but maybe 2, 3, or 4 is not like, oh, I had not thought of that. And then you can dig down and really see, is this a viable option?
Wow. I tell you what, that ChatGPT prompt alone is going to save so many college students right now. They need to go and pick up your book, How to Find Your Next Job with ChatGPT, a guide for everyone. That prompt is absolute gold. And so let's assume for a second, I talk about this quite a lot. When students are looking to work for particular companies, I encourage them to go and check out the social media profiles of the hiring managers at these companies. So, what can students learn by doing that activity?
Oh, wow, that's a really great question. So my recommendation is, if you're trying to contact, so there's 2 different ways to do it. One is a networking. How do you network somebody you have no idea who they are?
Mhm.
The second is you have an upcoming interview, and those are 2 different tactics. So the networking, my recommendation there, and again, that's also in the book, where you would go onto their social media profile, and the command would be, I want to do a LinkedIn recommendation or a LinkedIn introduction. And they have, what LinkedIn allows you is a 300-character introduction that you can do when you want to connect with somebody. Now, what I would do is I would say, based upon their social media profile and my resume, and I would give them both pieces of information.
Right.
My goal is, and you need to state what the goal is, your goal to get a 15-minute conversation. Is it to learn about the industry? Is it to position yourself for job opportunities within the company? You need to give ChatGPT that information. And then when you do that, say, give me 3 examples of that 300-character introduction that I could do with this person.
Wow, Ben, pardon the
Now,
pun, but this is gold. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? I mean, that is just ingenious. I got to go and buy your book today. Wow, that's blowing me away. What is your advice for the college student listeners in terms of their LinkedIn profiles? What do you recommend for a college student or recent graduate?
that is, and again, there are some different elements. You definitely want to have your headline promote where you're going.
Okay.
So even if, say, you don't have any experience, I would always recommend that no matter what you do, you always have generative AI and chat GPT somewhere in your profile, because think of it like this, that generative AI, today we think of it as cutting edge. In a year from now, it'll be like the internet. Like, of course you have to have it. Okay, so it's important to put, so even if you've never opened up Chat GPT, I promise you, and in my book, I have the ability for people to get a 60-day, basically a 60-day plan to go from zero to an AI master, and that takes roughly 2 hours a day. And it's about making the decision that you want to become informed. You don't have to become a data scientist. Like you had mentioned to me that your son is becoming a data scientist, which is great, because I worked with the data sciences. Call them my favorite geeks. Okay, so it is a great profession,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of needs for that. But you don't have to be a data scientist to understand generative AI.
Yeah.
You just need to be curious and understand that there's so many things that you can learn about it, how to get your next job, how to network, how to, all these different elements. But then the next one is whatever you're going to do, learn about all the tools inside. If you're going into HR and it is really scary, the tools that are coming out for HR right now that are where you're talking about automated for talent acquisition, there's automated resume analysis. It's been around for a while, but now they're doing automated interviews. So you talk to a robot and it does an interview screen. Okay, so think about that. Then think about, I just saw today a post of this technology that you can, in roughly 60 seconds, create an onboarding for all of your employees. So you upload all the documents and then it creates a personalized plan for whoever you're hiring. Okay, so these are things that used to take HR. You had to have a lot of expertise. How do you handle these different things? And now they're being automated. So you need to ask that question, well, what part of HR still requires a human? And you might have to say it's the human that knows how to deploy these technologies and that knows how to handle the trouble situation. So so whatever your career path is, you need to understand the tools so that you're not trying to do something manual that's already been automated.
Wow, you're just blowing my mind right now. I'm definitely heading to Amazon and picking up your book. If I want to make a great cover letter, so you suggest basically cut and paste my resume into ChatGPT. What else do I need to plug in there in terms of data in order to get back a great cover letter?
So I haven't said this, but let me take like a 30,000-foot view. When you think of generative AI, and a lot
Yeah,
of times people will get a free account with ChatGPT, and they will make this mistake of not understanding how to use it.
yeah,
So think of input and output. And the input is composed of two components. The first is a prompt. The prompt is a command. So that's when you hear prompt engineers, you hear those elements. The second is contextual data. So contextual data is stuff like ChatGPT does not know who Ben Gold is, doesn't know who you are, Michael.
right,
So putting in a command, and the command should be very specific. It's not, if you say write me a cover letter and you
yeah,
have nothing else, it's going to write a cover letter and it's going to be it's going to make up information because it doesn't have anything. It made a cover letter.
right.
But if you say write me a concise cover letter, and you might even say at the beginning, you are a top-notch career counselor. You tell it what it is. You are going to write me a concise cover letter that highlights my top two skills that resonate with the job description based upon my resume, paste, and here is the job description, paste, enter. And it will.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's just brilliant because I know that you're giving it everything it needs to create an absolutely brilliant cover letter. And I think, today's college students, I don't know they realize all of this information that you're giving them. I mean, it's just brilliant. And now I'm starting to think beyond, right? Just job searches. I mean, how else can we leverage this technology?
Well, the scary part is that there's a couple of different trends happening. So if I think back to the job I had a year ago, I probably today, based on the apps out there, could be 30 to 40% more efficient.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we got an RFP or request for proposal.
Mhm.
Those used to take hours and hours and hours. Now I'm like, if I had Chat GPT and I'm doing an RFP, that would literally make it 80% less time spent on that. So you ask this like as far as like if I'm thinking of my career or my job, that you can incorporate this in almost any capacity. If I'm a sales rep, I need to do truly, I want to do a deep dive into who I'm going to be presenting to. Like I go into somebody's LinkedIn profile, I'll say, give me. If I want to know who that person is, there's all these different prompts about who is this person. Okay, tell me about their top three priorities. But then you can go into their interest and their groups and copy and paste those and say, based on the groups they're a part of, what are their priorities? Based on their interest, what are their priorities? So you can begin to get almost a profile of who that person is before you meet them.
Wow. That just blows me away. I mean, absolutely incredible. How handy would that be going into an interview, knowing what all their priorities are based on their LinkedIn profile? It gives you so much information. Just absolutely brilliant. I love all of that. What about the resume? I mean, what stands out to you in a competitive job market, and what can AI do to help make it great?
So the resume is done in components.
Mhm.
And you typically will have, and this is where I don't necessarily get as much involved because there are career counselors and there's multiple theories about what is a good resume.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, you've got on the top, there is a headline, like what are the top 5 or 6 things I can do.
Mhm.
And now again, as a student, that's going to, you might not have that, you might not have enough experience to do that. So the headline might be 2 or 3 things about really what you've done at school, your accomplishments. There is typically a core proficiency, or what I call is just basically an applicant tracking system, keywords that you put things that you do. What are your majors? What are the programming languages or skills that you've got that you need to put somewhere in your resume? And then there's a part about your accomplishments. And what's really good is that I can go in and say, okay, here's everything about me. Take an old resume, take anything, any test, and give me 6, 7 bullet points for this section. Give me for this section, and then you can pick and choose and say, "God, that," because it gets it. I promise you, it'll get it wrong. But what it does is it gives you ideas, and you'll say, "Okay, I like 1, 2, and 4." But I don't like 3 and 6, and you can begin to say, "Well, I'm going to change it." But what that does is think about how difficult it is to write your first resume from scratch.
Yeah.
It takes hours, and you sit there and you don't even know where to go, and this saves you that challenge. So absolutely, there's ways to be able to incorporate this into that. But I also recommend, and this is something, there is a key point. I recommend always go doing it on ChatGPT and then getting a career counselor,
Yeah.
getting someone to look at it, at the formatting. Now, I can scare you a little bit I don't know if you're aware of what happened last week with ChatGPT,
What happened?
but okay, this is like, so it's mind-boggling, and it's a full-time job to keep track of this stuff. But they have this capability that you take a picture and it evaluates the picture. Okay, so I went on my computer and I took a picture of my cell phone of my resume on the computer, and I said, "Tell me what do you think about the formatting of my resume?" And
Mhm.
it gave me formatting suggestions.
Wow.
But not only was it able to tell me, it actually gave me both content. So from a picture, it was able to give me a review of my resume and everything about me, but it was able to also give me formatting capabilities. So that's when you think about this, every time that happens, I say, well, there's a bunch of jobs that are going to go away because because of this capability. Like, oh my gosh, and then I went to my dad's in memorabilia. He had a Japanese magazine. I took a picture of the magazine and it translated the entire cover, told the contextual history of why this magazine is important and everything about the cover. So, and I went to a baseball card. I used to sell baseball cards, and I said, grade this baseball card like you were selling it on eBay. And it went through, and it took from a picture. It's like the top right corner is slightly dented. And anyway, so that's an example. I went off on a tangent. Let me finish my original thought. There's something I do want to say where AI is not very good, or where I'm not convinced, and really you do need to take your time, is in job matching.
Yeah.
Okay, that is an area where I believe, and again, some people don't agree with this, so this is my personal philosophy. I am not about spraying wide and sending out 200 resumes, because that's a problem with with the job market right now, is people that spray 200 resumes without doing their research. They're clogging up the applicant tracking systems. They're forcing companies to use AI to screen people out.
Correct.
And so what happens is that so typically before you apply, you should have a good resume, and you should have a good social media profile, and you should know what you are going for. And that's really important because, especially in the competitive market today, if you don't know that, you're not going to get picked. You cannot be just a generalist. You really need to be very laser focused. Then typically from there, LinkedIn will give you some good recommendations. And that's my point, is that you can, when you find an opportunity that looks good, that's when I would copy and paste it and be able to then say, what is my compatibility on a scale of 1 to 100? And then to be able to say, is this something worth my time to apply for? Because you're still going to spend some time answering some questions or uploading a resume, and it will give you that. And so my recommendation is take the time, instead of spraying wide, when you've determined what you want, find those 5 or 10 opportunities and be laser focused, and you'll have a better shot.
Wow. This is absolutely brilliant. You've really expanded my mind here today. And I know our audience listeners are just going to be blown away by some of the things that you've been talking about here today, as well as your book. To all of our listeners, I recommend that every single one of them, I know I'm literally, as soon as I get off this interview, I'm going to Amazon. I'm going to go and buy the book. It's called How to Find Your Next Job with ChatGPT, a guide for everyone. I think it's brilliant. College students are going to eat this up because Gen Z, that's all they care about, is getting a job. That's all they care about. It's literally, they're hyper focused on it. Why? Because when they were kids, they saw the depression in 2008, and they saw their parents and their parents' friends lose their jobs, and they don't want that to happen to them. So I think they're laser focused on exactly what your book provides. And I think we have a really, really good match here.
Great. And I was just going to say that I actually had an issue with my first publisher. I'm getting it republished because there were some issues on distribution.
Yeah.
The ebook is on my website, bengoldai.com. The Amazon distribution should be in the next week or two. So just so
Okay.
you're aware. So if you want to do that, you'd go in the ebook on my website.
All right, that sounds good. I'm going to go and do that. It's bengoldai.com. I'm going to go and buy the ebook there on the website. And then hopefully in the future, it'll be available on Amazon. So that way we can go and get that. But this is fantastic. Ben, thank you so much for sharing all of this critical information. You are absolute gold. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Ben, and I'm sure you did, I need you to like it on social media. I need you to share it on social media, share it with all of your friends, share it with your brothers and sisters, especially those that are looking to get into the job world, and they're figuring out their career and they're building their resumes and cover letters and applying for jobs. They need to get this book. They need to hear this interview. So make sure you share it with them. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.